Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to continue the process of quieting the garden, putting the garden to bed. I don't want any of this forceful, like, gotta clean up the garden. It just doesn't, that's just not my vibe. It's not my style of gardening. Instead, we are approaching this as the quieting, the getting the garden ready for bed. And so I have a little checklist that I want to go through, and we are going to just kind of get all these little zones, more of these little zones rather, ready for their winter nap. And I'm going to put you up on my stand for a second because I want to share an update on my gorgeous geraniums, those cuttings from my girlfriend Nancy down in Castle Rock that I rooted, gosh, maybe like a month or so ago. Anyways, I want to give you an update. They are looking so good. So of all the geraniums that she sent me, I did have, oh my gosh, I had probably 24 cuttings that I started with rooting hormone. I'll link to that video below. And essentially, I've been patiently waiting, and check it out. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see this, but right there, so these are Bootstrap Farmer trays. And what I love about them is you get this hole in the bottom, and right inside, you can see the very first roots starting to appear. What I also love about these is that little hole allows you to push up and actually gently lift, as opposed to like digging down in there with a butter knife is usually what I use. But I wanted to bring these out here because I am finally seeing root growth, and I wanted to share it with you. I also have tons of new leaves. And so let's kind of push one up and just see. It's always like moment of truth. Okay, here we are. So you just basically push up on that little bottom there and lift it out. Let's see what we've got. Oh, there they are. Oh my gosh, you guys, this feels so victorious. Those are the brand new roots on my geranium. Okay, I kind of want to do another one. Okay, no roots on this little guy, but that clump is holding firm together. This one I did see roots on, so let me kind of push this guy out. This is the other one I saw roots in the bottom of. Oh yeah, I mean, you can always tell when they're rooted because they come out in this nice little block. Yeah, check that out. Okay, I'm gonna let these ride in their little trays for probably another couple weeks, and then I'll pot these along. If there's massive roots coming out the bottom, then I'll pot them on. But yeah, so far so good. All right, first item on my list is I'm actually gonna get after my basil. This is my African blue basil. I'm gonna take you over there, and I'm going to show you what I learned. Here we are the African blue basil. This is one of my favorite plants this year. I actually found it to be so incredibly gorgeous in the garden. Now, last night we got down to 40 degrees. Tonight we're getting down to 38, and the following night we're getting down to 36. So first of all, I am shocked that this thing hasn't keeled over and died. So yay for cold hardiness. And I was kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I for sure want to grow this next year. I should look and see who has seed. Well, it turns out they don't sell seed for African blue basil. They take it from cuttings. I am not about ready to be out here risking losing this gorgeous plant. So, long story short, I'm gonna take cuttings today. I'm gonna root them very simply in a cup of water. Basil roots so easily for me. So I'm gonna pick a big old load of this and get it started on my windowsill. And then as soon as those roots come on, pop it in some soil, and we're off. Okay, project number one done. Look at all these gorgeous cuttings. Here's the deal. When you take cuttings, always take more than you need. If you are putting all your eggs in one basket with a singular cutting, that is, I feel like, a recipe for disappointment. So give yourself some grace in the garden. Know that not everything will root as you want it to, and kind of hedge your bets. But this, oh my gosh, not only is it going to be gorgeous on my windowsill, not only is it going to smell beautiful, but I am hoping to have a ton of African blue basil in the spring. Next on the list is my dining room patio. So for those of you who are new here, first of all, welcome. Second of all, I live in a small cottage. So, I mean, like 800 square feet on each floor. And so I don't really have a lot of room to store things. And I was thinking to myself, I need to take down, I'm not going to take down my table, but I do need to store my chairs for the winter. And like you can see, they're already like, they totally blew around in the wind last night. And so what I'm kind of thinking is I am going to store my chairs under my dining room table. Now, what was amazing is when we bought this from Yardbird, we actually purchased a fitted cover for it because there's something so nice about having just the right thing to cover and protect this investment, because it took us a long time to find this table and I saved my little pennies and I didn't want to just buy something inexpensive. I wanted to buy something of quality. So we bought the coordinating cover, which I'm actually super tickled with. So it's time to break it down. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this centerpiece. That's gonna go in the basement. I don't see any sign of aphids, but I am gonna be watching that one closely. And it's gonna go under the grow lights. And then let's wipe off this table, put the cover on it, and then you're gonna see me store my dining room chairs underneath the table. We'll see if it works. Might as well. By the way, to not scratch the table, I simply purchased a very inexpensive cork round. I don't know, maybe this is like 1/4 of an inch thick. This has worked beautifully, and it's not gross either because this is a low water arrangement. So I'm gonna let this dry out inside and we're gonna use it again next year. Okay, I don't know if anyone out there agrees with me, but there is something so nice about quieting the house and quieting the garden. And it's not that we're like tidying everything up in this hurry scurry, like very sterile way, but it's kind of like after you've had a big celebration in your home, whether it be a birthday or maybe it's a big Christmas, the Christmas season. I actually feel this way sometimes. At the end of the Christmas season, it's nice to like quiet the house back down and put away the decorations and just simplify a little bit. And I feel like this is what this is. I'm quieting my garden. I'm getting it ready for the resting season because that is truly what winter is it's that recharge, it's that rejuvenation. I always think it's so rude that we want plants to just be all the things all year long. And I know I can't personally do that. So why am I expecting that of a plant? Okay, just to show you this, look how cool this is. So if you have an umbrella and you still want to protect this during the summer, this is like perfect. It's like your little umbrella hatch. And then this zipper goes all the way down. So what's really lovely is as you are getting your home kind of like, if you want to protect it during the summertime, you don't have to take out the umbrella. You just like zip it around. And then check this out. Here are all of my chairs. Okay, you guys, I am so tickled. They fit perfectly. I broke them in 2 little groupings here. And so this is just like, man, when you live in a small house, sometimes you got to get real creative. And this is, I'm just tickled. Next thing on my list is I'm actually going to head to the back and I want to unplug the reservoir hole from all of my Crescent Garden containers because we are going to be dipping into those freezing temperatures and I don't want water freezing in the basin and cracking the container. So I'm going to let all the plugs out. It's probably going to be a deluge because we've had so much rain. And then I think I'm going to remove all of my annuals. I think I'm going to leave most of the perennials, but the annuals I'm going to 86. It's time for them to go. Most of them look like mush by now. So we're going to go ahead and quiet that area next. I've loved this space this year, but it is time for me to put these little goodies away. And these chairs collapse really small, which is one of the reasons that I got them. And I feel like I can use my little mushroom stool pretty much anywhere inside the house. So I'm gonna go ahead and start breaking it down. I haven't yet decided if I'm gonna take out the eucalyptus. I might, because I think what I might actually do is I might actually dry some bundles of eucalyptus because I love that scent in a house. The other thing I'm thinking of is I love to get just like a really basic holiday wreath and then enhance it with different elements. And I think that this eucalyptus could be gorgeous in a wreath. What's fun is the sedum actually still looks really great, and the penstemon, I cannot believe it is still hanging on. I actually have an idea for this penstemon, and I'm not going to plant it out this year, I don't think, but I may plant it in the landscape in the spring. Down here, you guys can see the plug for this reservoir, and so essentially all I'm going to do is come down here, unscrew my little cap, and out she goes. I mean, how awesome is that? We have had a ton of rain, and so there's a lot to take out. Typically, I would not cut back my grasses, but I kind of need to see what's going on in here with a little bit more clarity. I'm also going to transplant these grasses at some point. I actually have a girlfriend that I might be giving them to, and so I just want to tidy it up a little bit so I can actually see what I'm getting after. And by the way, because I am cutting these back, which I normally would not do, I'm not cutting them all the way down to a nub. I'm going to leave probably like 4 or 5 inches above ground, just trying to tidy them so I can see a little bit better what I'm working with. So next thing I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna take out all of my annuals, and I'm also gonna clip back my eucalyptus. This was so beautiful. I kind of wonder if the root structure will survive the winter, so I'm just going to test run that here. But I am going to clip all of these, bring them inside, hang them up to dry, and then I'll add these to my wreath when I purchase it this next week. Look at this gorgeous bunch of eucalyptus. Okay, I'm also tempted to hang some in my shower. And you know, this foliage for my callas, it's getting a little bit slimy, so I'm actually just gonna cut it back right now. And then the only last thing I need to do is reach down on this side and pull the plug on this amazing crescent container. Last two containers. Now this container is actually a different watering system. So this has a basin in the bottom and then kind of like a prong mechanism that goes down. You do have the option of drilling an overflow hole in this one, which I'm probably gonna do, because if I leave these out here with as much rain as we get, they'll be completely full. So what you're gonna see me do is I'm actually gonna lift the innards of this completely out after I yank my annuals. And then when Brian gets home, I'll have him drill a little hole in this guy so that there's an overflow mechanism for the winter time, because we just get so much rain here in Seattle. Container on the radar, so I'm going to go ahead, remove my amazing eucalyptus. This one also has the penstemon that I think I'm going to put out in the garden. Not sure when that's going to get done, but I'm going to leave it planted for the time being. And then this little carex will overwinter just fine. I'm going to go ahead and dump out the water. And then this one, since I leave it in an exposed area, I am going to drill an overflow hole on this one as well. Thinking about it, this Artemisia, this is Powys Castle, and this particular Artemisia is hardy in zones 6 through 9. So here in Seattle, we're technically in a zone 8. I like to garden like I'm in a zone 7 because every couple of years we'll have a really hard frost. However, the general rule of thumb when you are putting perennials and plants in a container is that they need to survive 2 zones lower. So that means if I'm in a zone 8 and I plant something in here that is in a zone 6, it should do just fine. So I think I'm actually going to leave it, and we're just going to have an experiment. We're just going to see what happens. Another zone quieted down. We're not doing anything earth-shattering here, but what we are doing is we're just kind of quieting things. I'm not going to plant this out for the winter. I'm going to save this for potentially spring, but more than likely next summer is when we will see this come back into its full glory. But for right now, it's quiet. It's ready for the season ahead. This is going to be the last zone I'm quieting for the day. It is 2:30. And it looks like it is dusk out because we have a massive storm coming in. And with that, usually in November comes a lot of rain and a lot of wind, and we did have a ton of wind the last couple days. And so what I want to do here is I've already gone through and I have done like a video recording of all of my dahlias here in the patch. I want to wait until my first frost to actually dig. Now, some people dig them earlier. I prefer to wait until my first frost because I want to give these tubers as much time in the ground as humanly possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and anyone that is kind of like lanky, I'm going to give a haircut. So much better. Okay. Now I feel like if a windstorm rips through here, I'm not going to be left with such a hot mess on my hands. It also just, you know, it's time. It's time. This is the final swan song of the dahlias. They should be frozen over in the next 2 weeks. Oh, friends, okay, there's the rain, and so that is my cue to go inside so my camera doesn't get wet. I'm gonna see you in the next one. In the meantime, stay dry and say hello to your garden for me.